Hello, it's E. Willie once again, bringing you some more news. And right now it seems like we are in uncharted territory. There's a lot of chaos going on. Nobody can really foresee the future. We have racist ideologies being pushed. We have the President of the United States completely lying to everybody's face. We have the federal government trying to gain more power out of all this chaos. But things are not all lost. It does seem like the current establishment is slowly dying out, but they're doing everything they can to stay in power. And I want to show you this first article. Biden admin walks back ties to group, pushing critical race theory in schools. Now, why is this important? It's important because it shows you that the Democrats are scared. They notice that people don't like this defund the police stuff. They notice they don't like this critical race theory stuff. And so they're going to start walking it back slowly. As you know, right now, critical race theory is being pushed on the youth. It's straight into indoctrination. And let's go into this article. The Biden administration blamed an error Wednesday after promoting a radical activist group's handbook that pushes critical race theory in schools and calls on educators to disrupt whiteness. The department does not endorse the recommendations of this group, nor do they reflect our policy positions, the DOE said in a statement. It was an error and lengthy document to include the citation. DOE linked to Abolitionist Teaching Network's Guide for Racial Justice and Abolitionist Social and Emotional Learning in its handbook, intended as a roadmap for schools to reopen safely during the pandemic. Abolitionist teaching promotes justice, healing, joy, and liberation for all Black, Brown, and Indigenous folks, with an X, inclusive of all intersecting identities. The group's guide states it calls on educators to remove all punitive or disciplinary practices that spirit murder Black, Brown, and Indigenous children, and to build a school culture that engages in healing and advocacy. This requires commitment to learning from students, families, and educators who disrupt whiteness and other forms of oppression, it states. The guide also claims that social and emotional learning can be a covert form of policing used to punish, criminalize, and control Black, Brown, and Indigenous children and communities to adhere to white norms. And most SEL programs standards are rooted in Eurocentric norms, not to empower, love, affirm, or free Black, Brown, or Indigenous children. This is exactly what I've been talking about, the critical race theory stuff. It's not about helping minority students succeed, but it's more about destroying what Western civilization has set up and destroying the way we do things, destroying the way we teach students. Luckily, people are starting to realize and people are starting to fight, and it's great to see, and it shows you that the right is winning the culture war. Even though the left controls all the other institutions, it's slowly but surely these ideas, people are noticing them, and they are standing up for what they believe in. And then we'll go back in. While the Abolitionist Teaching Network, co-founded last year by author and professor Bettina Love, does not explicitly mention critical race theory in the guide promoted by the Biden administration, the idea that racism is not aberrational and America's institutions are inherently racist are commonly hold tenets of the theory. The network is dedicated to not creating new schools or reimagining schools, but destroying schools and doing nothing but harm Black and Brown children. Love said during a welcome webinar in October, if you don't recognize that white supremacy is in everything we do, then we got a problem. See, this transcends politics. When you start messing with people's children and you start teaching them this stuff and trying to indoctrinate them, then people are going to get upset. And it's very good news that the Biden administration is starting to walk back this, because what do you think these kids are going to be like in 10 years if we have an entire generation that sees the world through lens of oppressed v. oppressor? And what is even coming out of this critical race theory? Is it helping at all? Doesn't seem like it. Look at this article from the Daily Mail. Race relations in the U.S. between black and white adults are at the lowest point in more than 2 decades, and black Americans are 20% less optimistic about future racial harmony, poll finds. A recent Gallup poll said race relations between black and whites in the U.S. are at their lowest point in more than 2 decades. Currently, 42% of Americans say relations between the two racial groups rated it as positive, as opposed to 57% who says it's negative. Last year was 44% positive. Race relations have eroded since it was 70% positive in 2013. The future is mixed based on racial group, with 60% of white Americans seeing a better future versus 40% of black Americans. So yeah, what do you get? Because these theories are not designed to help racism. They're designed to destroy Western society and destroy everything we have because of a pathological, just evil mindset. These ideologies are tearing us apart. We're really lucky to live in such a Christian society. I know everyone craps on America, but I've been around. I've been to Europe, and by far, I felt the safest in America. You don't have to worry about being pickpocketed in America. Biden claims GOP is lying about Democrats wanting to defund police, says he's never supported it. Obviously, we know this is complete and utter bullcrap with the George Floyd thing. Everybody was calling for defunding the police, even abolishing the police, and they've already in many cities have done this, and it's not working. Crime is skyrocketing. But he's sort of, at the same time, not lying. And you may be, what do you mean? I'll show you. Right now, the Democrats are instating their version of the Gestapo, called the Capitol Police. Yes. They have set up a new federal police group called the Capitol Police. The Capitol Police will open offices in states to investigate threats to members of Congress. The January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol thrust its police force into a sympathetic national spotlight like any other government agency. The U.S. Capitol has seized this opportunity to expand its mission and acquire additional funding. Now, police plans to build regional field offices in the states, California, and Florida for starters. The department is also in the process of opening regional field offices in California and Florida, with additional regions in the near future to investigate threats to members of Congress, notes the department in a press release. The Capitol Police will also procure more riot gear, invest in use of force training camps, and provide psychological trauma and stress counseling for its officers. New wellness support dogs, Leela and Philip, will spread the message of wellness by helping engage the wellness team with our employees, notes the press release. We already heard about Jen Psaki saying that the Biden administration is teaming up with phone companies to censor and find radicals. And we also recently found out that the coup attempt in Michigan against Governor Whitmer was actually, half of them were FBI agents. And so I don't know if that's entrapment or not, but we can see this, the establishment is doing everything they can right now to grab as much power as possible. And I also want to know what they mean by use of force training camps and provide psychological trauma and stress. I wonder what those mean. It seems to me that this is going to be the federal government's personal army to go after dissenters and people who criticize them. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just people in Washington truly believe that the January 6th riot was a catastrophe and we really do need more support. But I wouldn't be one to trust our federal government. Our federal government is kind of like a corporation at this point, where you see Amazon, these companies, their one goal is to just expand and get more money. But with the federal government right now, it's to expand and grab more power And it's not a single person. It's just this entity that wants to just control. Is it really about protecting this nation? No. It's most likely hypocrisy. And it's very, very scary that this is happening. And it's absolute horse crap. It's absolute horse crap. Look, almost half of federal cases against Portland rioters have been dismissed. So we get Trump supporters who go up and they have their little flags and they're wanted to go and support the president, and they wanted to have people actually look into the elections. And then we have police let in Trump supporters. They go and kill Ashley Babbitt, and then a riot starts. 430 people have been arrested. Their first person was just charged with felony, got 8 months. But what happens to these Antifa, these little parasites? Nothing. You know what? They're just going to spend more money just to take away our rights. They hate you. They hate me. They hate us. They don't want you to be independent. But we'll go back into the article. Case in point, contrary to the conservative notion that liberals are trying to defund the police, the Democrats proposed $1.9 billion in additional funding for Capitol Police, and House Republicans voted unanimously against the bill. Several Democratic members of the Progressive Squad, Cori Bush, Ilhan Omar, and Ayanna Pressley, stuck to their police skeptical principles and joined with Republicans to oppose the funding, but Representative AOC, Jamal Bowen, and Rashida Tlaib voted present rather than no as the bill passed the House. As a result of AOC's craven act in refusing to join with the other 3 squad members and uniting the GOP to stop it, there is now yet another federal law enforcement agency attempting to assert its power outside of Washington. The Capitol Police, writes Glenn Greenwald. They intend to open up regional offices in 2 of the country's largest states, with plans to grow even further. Perhaps even more significantly, they are turning themselves into a preventative, intelligence-based private police force for Congress, which by definition will monitor and spy on Americans beyond what the FBI, NSA, and CIA already do. One does not need to minimize the horrible spectacle at the Capitol in order to reject the idea that its police force should get millions or billions of dollars and increased presence outside of Washington, D.C. All Americans should condemn the deranged lawless mob and the man who summoned it, while still zealously opposing the relentless expansion of the national security state. Now, I do disagree with that last part. I don't think Trump incited it. But we can definitely agree that this is evil, and this is something the country does not need. And there's a lot of people that say, "Oh, they're all bad, they're all evil, they're all equally bad." I hope this shows you that the Republicans, even though a lot of them suck, they mostly do nothing. At least they're not voting to have their own Gestapo in. It shows you, and it also scares the crap out of me, because I could see AOC being the first dictator of this country. The way she just virtue signals and riles people up, and young people who don't pay attention to the news at all love her. She's young, she's attractive, and she gets people going, but she's a fraud and she's a liar. I don't know, man. I don't know where this is gonna go, but it seems like things are speeding up. We really got hope on these midterms that we get Republicans in. We really do, because if we don't, the Democrats are going to continue to expand their power. I appreciate you watching. If you got all the way through, or if anybody watched it not feeling too hot, so if I seem a little off, that's why. But thank you for watching, and if you do appreciate it, I'm going to be uploading Monday through Friday. Maybe give me a subscribe. Thanks. Bye.